One of the first urban legend videos we did on this channel was the Korean urban legends. In many ways, I think it spawned the whole series. It's let us cover a whole bunch of different countries around the world, so I thought, why don't we return to Korea and take a look at some more? I know some of you said that Korea has the scariest stories by far. Let's look at some more and see how many others of you agree. My name is Danny Burke. This is the top 10 scary Korean urban legends, part 2. Starting off at number 10 now, we have 1212. The story goes like this. One night, a Korean girl named Sun Hee was at school. It was late and she was studying in the library with a group of other students from her class. All the lights were on, but the rest of the school was in darkness. After a while, Sun Hee went to use the toilet. She told her friends and then headed down the dark hallway to the bathroom. A few minutes passed and then, in the library, the other students began to hear a faint tapping noise. It was quiet at first, but got steadily louder. It seemed to be coming from the window. When they looked out, there, standing in the darkness, was a pale woman. She pressed her face against the window, but seemed to keep her eyes shut. One of her long, crooked fingers was tapping on the window. Then, one of the students gasped in horror. The woman wasn't closing her eyes. She didn't have any eyes at all. There were just dark holes where her eyes should have been. Then she raised her fist and smashed the glass. All the lights went out. In the bathroom, Sun Hee was about to wash her hands when she was plunged into darkness. There was silence. She was too far from the library to hear the screams as the woman slaughtered the other students. She stepped back into the library and stopped dead in her tracks. The bodies of the other students were everywhere. Shaking with fear, her mind raced as she tried to figure out what had happened. Then she heard footsteps coming from down the hallway. Sun Hee dropped to the ground to play dead. She heard something enter the room. It made a rustling sound as it moved. Then there was a whisper. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Sun Hee kept her eyes closed and prayed. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. She felt the presence draw nearer and heard the voice getting louder. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. As it came beside her, the counting stopped. Sun Hee remained paralyzed with fear. There was absolute silence. After several minutes of this, Sun Hee thought the woman had gone. She slowly opened her eyes. The woman was crouching directly over her, staring into her eyes. She had one pale, bony finger pointing straight at Sun Hee's face. 1, 2, she said, before plucking her eyeballs out with her fingers. Yes. Okay, we started off pretty intense with that one, didn't we? Let's keep it going now as we move on to our number 9 now, which is the Cuckoo Man. This urban legend began to spread around Korea a few years ago. There were rumors in schools about a crazy man who was terrorizing students, the Cuckoo Man. They say that he would lurk in alleyways and dark streets, lying in wait for his next victim. One story involved a group of schoolgirls passing by. They heard a voice saying cuckoo, cuckoo. When they turned around to look at him, the Cuckoo Man would savagely attack them. Some say that he used a baseball bat, others say his weapon of choice was an axe. Either way, reports of this happening became more and more frequent. One of them involved 20 to 30 schoolgirls walking down the street when the Cuckoo Man jumped them and started hitting them all with a baseball bat one by one. He only stopped when the police arrived, at which point he fled into the night. Some say there is one way to stop the Cuckoo Man from attacking you. If you're walking down the street and hear a strange voice behind you saying cuckoo, cuckoo, you must also reply with cuckoo, cuckoo, and then run for your life. Moving on to number 8 now, we have the MP3 kidnappings. This urban legend appeared around 2010 and has been spreading in some form or another ever since. People say that kidnappers in Korea have had much easier jobs ever since people started listening to music with their headphones. It was around 2010 when listening to music like this became very widespread in South Korea, and that's about when the reports of the kidnappings began. People say that kidnappers were driving around dark streets waiting to spot someone with headphones blasting music in their ears. And then, when the innocent person is distracted, they are bundled into the back of a car and taken away. The phenomenon began spreading across the whole country and was even talked about online. Many blogs and forums told the story of a female middle school student who was walking around one night, headphones blaring. She was kidnapped by 3 or 4 criminals who wrapped tape around her mouth and then her. They then returned her to the spot where they found her. Although these may just seem like stories, it has resulted in some South Koreans developing a real superstition about listening to loud music alone, especially when walking along dark and creepy streets. Next up, number 7 now, we have the handsome man. The story goes like this. 19-year-old Karuko lived on the 14th floor of her apartment building. One night she was coming home late from university and took the elevator up to her floor. She was alone, but a moment before the doors closed, a handsome man stepped into the elevator with her. He smiled and stood quite close to her. They chatted for a while and the man said that he lived on the 13th floor. When they reached that, he got out, turned to face her. His smile turned to an evil one. He tilted his head and said, "I'll see you upstairs." Then he pulled out a knife and laughed manically as he ran up the staircase. Before Karuko could do anything, the elevator doors closed. She tried to stop the elevator by hitting every button she could, but nothing worked. When she got to her floor, the doors opened and there he was. She was never heard from again. Some people in Korea believe this is the reason why elevators now have a stop button, and they'll be happy to tell you Karuko's story to show you why. Moving on to number 6 now, we have the sesame seeds. The story goes like this. One day a girl was worried about her skin getting old and wrinkled. She was obsessed with improving the look of her skin constantly. At first she used normal products, but then felt she needed more than that and started to explore stranger techniques. One day a friend of a friend told her that if you put sesame seeds in your bath, they will help your skin stay youthful and glowing. The girl had heard a lot of techniques, but not one like this. Perhaps this was a secret method that would satisfy her forever. She rushed home and ran a bath. After pouring a huge bag of sesame seeds, she jumped into the bath, where she stayed for hours. Her family told her to get out of the bathroom eventually, but the girl refused. She wanted more time for it to work. Her mother grew suspicious and kicked the door down eventually. To her absolute horror, she found the girl in a shocking state. Every last seed had attached itself to her skin pores and wrinkles and sent roots down into her skin. Her daughter had a calm but crazed look in her eyes. She was trying to remove the seeds one by one with a toothpick, but all that came out was her trickling blood, splashing onto the bathroom floor. Next up at number 5 now, we have the eyeless woman. This urban legend comes from north of Seoul. There you can find a strip of highway that connects Goyang to Paju. It's called Jeuro, and it's a road that's notorious for heavy fog that's been blamed for a number of horrific car accidents over the years. At least that's what the officials say. You see, many locals believe there is a supernatural cause behind the accidents. Many drivers have claimed to have seen a young woman wearing sunglasses stood on the side of the highway at night. It's only when they get close that the drivers realize there are no sunglasses. Instead, her eyes are actually gouged out and absolutely hollow. The shock of seeing her sends drivers careering off the road and to their untimely deaths. Moving on to number 4 now, we have the cockroaches. This South Korean urban legend will freak out anyone with a fear of creepy crawlies. The story goes like this. One day a girl's stomach started to hurt really bad. She didn't see any reason for this, and so she went straight to the hospital. The doctors took an x-ray which appeared to show what they called foreign elements inside her. They took some more detailed x-rays and discovered that what they were actually looking at were cockroaches inside her body. Somehow a cockroach's eggs had ended up inside her, where they had hatched into fully grown cockroaches, happy of the fluids and warmth. They showed no signs of wanting to leave and had to be removed through surgery. Many people now check their clothes twice for cockroach eggs unless they want the story to come true for them too. Next up at number 3 now, we have the dead dream. According to some people in Korea, there have been reports of dead family members appearing in people's dreams. One such story involves that of a man who dreamt his grandmother was beckoning him over while she was waist deep in water. He wanted to go to her in the dream. After all, he did miss her, and she was still his grandmother, even if she was behaving really creepily. Something didn't feel right though. He felt in danger, even though it was just a dream. The next day he told his wife about the dream and her eyes widened. His wife explained what the dream meant. She said if you go into the arms of a dead person in a dream, especially if they're in water, it will be a sure sign that your soul is about to be stolen. The husband said he kept having the same dream night after night, but each time he could feel himself getting pulled closer and closer to her. He was only just managing to wake up in time. Then one day they realized they had kept one of the grandmother's possessions in the house by accident instead of leaving her to rest with it. The family believed this is what tied her spirit to the house still and was causing the dreams. After they paid their respects once more, the man's dreams stopped. at least for now. Next up at number 2 now, we have fan death. This is a well-known urban legend in Korean culture that fans not only cool people down, they can also kill them. They are said to do this in a number of different ways. One way is hypothermia. A person's metabolism is said to slow down at night and make them become more sensitive to heat. Some people believe this makes them more prone to hypothermia and that essentially a fan really can freeze you to death. Then there is the slightly more creepy reason, asphyxiation. Some believe that fans will suck up oxygen and blow carbon dioxide towards this sleeping person. This will slowly kill them in their sleep. It seems that this urban legend is very prevalent in Korea. In 2006, a South Korean government group warned of asphyxiation from electric fans and said they can kill people, especially elder patients or those with breathing problems. And finally at number 1 now, we have the cockroach face. Yes, we're returning to cockroaches now for our final story. It goes a little bit like this. A guy had some bad acne on his face. He was desperate to cure it, perhaps a little bit too desperate. He told his friends he would do anything to get rid of the unsightly scars the spots had left on his face. They told him to go see a local shaman who apparently had a very special method for treating acne. He didn't ask any questions. Like I said, he would do anything for a cure. The shaman sat him down and quickly told him exactly what he needed to do. He told him to find a cockroach before going to bed. He would have to put it next to his pillow just before going to sleep. Sleeping with this cockroach by his face would make the scars go away. The guy didn't ask any questions about how this would work and went home. He found a cockroach, left it right by his pillow and tried to get to sleep that night. The next morning he woke up, he looked in the mirror and was amazed to see that it had worked. His scars were all gone. But then, on closer inspection, he saw that the scar holes were not gone. They were simply filled with dozens of tiny, oozing cockroach eggs.
Coming in at number 10, red ink causes death. To me, red pens make me think of school and getting my essays or test papers back with teachers' markings on them. The more red, the worse you did, right? Well, red pen is way more stressful than that in some other parts of the world. Whatever you do, do not bring your red pens to South Korea. Worse yet, do not write someone's name in red ink. There is a strongly upheld superstition that red ink is cursed and writing someone's name in it will lead to their untimely demises. What? So you're gonna die if someone writes your name in red, basically. But like, what is to stop people buying a red pen and trying to off a love rival or a straight up enemy? Have people actually tried this out? Obviously this is a myth, but I totally get the superstition. I don't walk under ladders and sometimes I need to stop and touch wood. I also kinda believe that anyone who does try the whole red pen thing to destroy their foes will get bad luck tossed back at them. So, where do we go from here? Unicorns! That's where. Coming into number 9, we have the unicorn layer. In 2012, North Korean state media claimed that archaeologists from the Academy of Social Sciences in North Korea's History Institute claimed that they had discovered the unicorn layer 200 meters from a temple in the capital. Unicorn layer! So what's their evidence? Apparently a rectangular rock carved with the words unicorn layer in front of an actual, layer. The Korean Central News Agency said that this is proof that Korean King Tongmyong, founder of the kingdom, rode unicorns from 3 BC to 7 AD. He lived a long time and he rode unicorns. Cool! I love it. Good! Unicorns! Why is that scary? Because North Koreans were told that there are legit unicorns and now that they believe that there are unicorns, and to me, that is bananas. Another one coming from the north at number 8. Kim Jong-un has cured cancer. And Ebola. So just, live your life and don't even worry about it. North Koreans think that Kim Jong-un found cures to every single disease ever. Legit. In June 2016, the dictator made the rather odd claim and announced it over the state media. North Korean doctors explained it to the masses by saying that scientists insert rare earth elements into ginseng before applying micro-elementary fertilizers from the earth elements into ginseng fields. Wait, what? I feel like they did that thing where they made it sound really confusing just so people wouldn't ask any questions. So, did Kim Jong-un cure Ebola and cancer and every disease ever? Coming in at number 7, we have the cockroaches. Did anyone watch our top 10 scary Swedish myths? If so, you may remember the spider in the cactus situation or the many spiders in the yucca plant. Well, this is kind of like that, only the story goes that there could be cockroaches hiding in tampons. Ugh. Legend has it that one girl was using a sanitary product and later complained of having a stomachache, but this was no menstrual cramp ache. When the girl's stomach started to really hurt, she went to hospital where doctors discovered that a cockroach had laid eggs inside her and that they were all hanging out in her uterus. Aww, roach babies. This obviously isn't true, and it's probably just a scare tactic to make girls fearful of their bodies in menstruation. Coming into number 6, we have the body cabs. This is somewhat of a South Korean urban legend, I guess, like the boogeyman, but for drunk adults. The story goes that organ harvesters posing as cabbies drive around the cities, especially Seoul, looking for drunk passengers. When a person gets into the taxi, the cabbie asks where they want to go, like a normal driver would. They offer the passenger a drug-laced drink, which if they accept, they will pass out. If they don't, then they do things the harder way and stab the drunk person with a needle. When the rider wakes up, they have usually been dumped outside their door and soon realize that they've been wounded and hastily stitched back up. That's right, one of their kidneys is indeed missing. Of course, on trawling the internet, I actually can't find any evidence of this happening ever. A similar myth says that if you're caught unawares listening to music on your phone, then you'll also be snatched by the organ harvesters. Coming into number 5, we have the popular myth of fan death. In South Korea, it is a very popular myth that sleeping with a fan on at night will kill you, and if you run a fan at night, you run the risk of dying in your sleep. Why? Well, some crack fake news and fake science is why. It is said that fans suck oxygen away from sleepers, meaning that they suffocate. Others say that your body will get so cold with a fan on in the room that you could get hypothermia. Neither of these things are true. A fan is, a fan. Coming into number 4, we have eating dog meat is good for your health. The issue here is that North Koreans are starving. The UN World Food Programme visited North Korea this year and found that 10 million people, or 40% of the country, were on the brink of starvation. Official government rations are 300 grams of food a day, and that is around 2/3 of a pound. This is a basic approximation, but most people eat around 4 pounds of food each day in the United States, so North Koreans are barely eating anything. North Koreans, to put it lightly, are hungry, and they have been for a long time. Kim Jong-un's father, the former supreme leader, famously fed his people sawdust, but Kim Jong-un's regime has encouraged its citizens to eat dogs, which I guess is a step up. He claims it's great for stamina and has more vitamins than other meats. North Korean radio also announced that the meat, called dagogi, is a medicine that can cool you down on a hot day. He says that dogs should be beaten first to improve their flavor. With most of us in the Western world squirming at the thought of eating dogs because dogs are great, and I totally get that, it seems abhorrent. I would actually argue that all animals are great, however, eating dog meat from dubious sources really puts the consumer at risk. Why? Well, because dogs can carry a whole host of very nasty illnesses like rabies, trichiosis, and Ebola. If quality control was a priority in the DPRK, then citizens may be okay, but low quality dog meat is Kim Jong-un's way of trying to fend off famine. Why can't people afford to eat normally? Well, because the country is spending its money on funding nuclear weapons. Weirdly though, the practice of eating dog meat in South Korea is also a thing. They continue to believe that eating dog will cool you down in the summer, but they won't turn on a fan. Coming into number 3, we have the hottie in the elevator. Like, I get it, it's pretty hard to meet people organically these days, unless you want to Tinder and chill, etc. I get it, a hottie gets in lift and smiles at you and, well, you're thinking why not go for it? It's the perfect meet cute, right? Wrong. Do not trust a stranger who joins you in the elevator while you are alone. Why? Well, they could be a killer. There is a popular South Korean myth that says, you're gonna die, basically. Why? Well, the story goes that the handsome stranger turns out to be an absolute murderer, and it is said that once upon a time, 19-year-old Karuku lived on the 14th floor of her building. She was coming home late from university and decided to get in the lift and press up to 14. Just as the door was about to close, a man stuck his hand in there to stop it, and then he jumped in. Now the two flirted. She thought it was kind of cute, although he did stand a little bit too close. He got off at the floor below Karuku and said, "See you on the 14th floor," and then suddenly he pulled out a knife and ran up the stairs. Now there was nothing that Karuku could do. There was no stop button in the elevator. She just had to ride it until the doors inevitably opened and the man was standing there waiting for her. As you can imagine, this story doesn't have a happy ending. But again, it's fake. After the attack, it was said that the elevator stop buttons were then introduced across the country, although of course this is utter nonsense. The myth is another one of those stories that's probably just there to scare women. Coming into number 2, we have moving day. It is a strongly upheld belief in South Korea that spirits haunt homes, and if you move out, you may take some of those spirits with you. Therefore, it's considered unlucky to move during some days of the week. If you plan to move house in South Korea, most people will not do so on a Son Eop Sene Sal. Apparently this means a safe day. My pronunciations are a little lackluster. So basically, there are good days and bad days to move. You just need to call a mover and ask them. They'll know. I'll circle them on their calendar. If you move on a bad day, well, good luck. It is also best to trick house spirits by not sweeping the floors before you leave, as it is said that this will trick them into thinking you're still there, so they won't follow you. People will especially avoid moving on the 4th of the month, as they think that the number 4 is cursed. Alright, finally some classic propaganda here at number 1. We have the yellow-eyed American wolves. It seems that in North Korea, children are taught from a young age that Americans are the enemy, but beyond that, they are terrifying wolves. Children are told that Americans are monstrous beasts. Now, in an interview, one North Korean defector said, "From a very early age, we're brainwashed to believe that Americans are Yankee wolves. I used to think that all Americans were dangerous, yellow-eyed, and devilish. I would imagine American and South Korean men would have this thick chest hair wrapping all around them. It is perpetuated that these wolves will come for you if they get the chance." Now, North Koreans are also raised with institutions like the Museum of American Atrocities. It's a so-called educational facility that places the blame for the Korean War entirely on the United States. While there were a lot of countries involved, and the United States totally isn't blameless for backing the drama, it was North Korea who sparked the war by invading the South.